to Science Breakfast will be Alan Hubbard, and the sign language interpreter this morning is Tobias Omondi. And today is the 11th day of July. The year is 2025. We are here to keep you up to speed with what is happening in the country and keep you updated. Now, we started off with the new IEBC chair. Commissioners are set to be sworn in after High Court dismisses petition, and the High Court in Nairobi has cleared the way for the swearing in of a new chairperson and commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This comes after a three-judge bench on Thursday evening dismissed a petition that challenged the selection and nomination of Erastus Ethekon Edung as chairperson of the commission, and Ann Njerinderito, Moses Talala Amhwana, Mary Karen Sorbit, Hassan Nur Hassan, Francis Odhiambo Adwol, and Fahima Arfat Abdallah as commissioners. In their judgment, Justice Rosaline Abruli, John Chigiti, and Bahati Mwamuye ruled that the petition filed by the Kelvin Roy Omondi and Boniface Wangi lacked merit and was not properly founded under Article 22 of the Constitution. However, the judges quashed a Gazette notice dated 10th June 2025 issued by President William Ruto appointing the 7 individuals, directing that a new Gazette notice be issued to regularize their appointment. The court pointed out that the Gazette notice issued on 10th June 2025 under the hand and seal of the President was published in contravention of the conservatory orders dated and issued by the court on 29th May 2025, which prohibited inter alia the gazettement and appointment of the nominees pending the hearing and determination of the petition therein. Away from that, now to 36 protesters faced terrorism charges as MP Mkunji freed on 300 Kenyan shillings cash bail. And 36 individuals arrested during the recent June 25th and Saba protests have now formally taken plea on terrorism charges as the government intensifies its crackdown on protesters. This follows the approval of charges by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Ranson Gitonga. Among those facing charges are political allies of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Meanwhile, the court has released Manyata, Member of Parliament John Mukunji, on bail, even as TikToker and businessman Godfrey Kakan Mayo remains in police custody over incitement claims. 2 days after DPP Ranson Igonga approved terrorism charges against 36 suspects linked to the June 25th and Sabasaba protests, all have now taken plea at the Kahawa Law Courts. Here are the full details to the story.
You see, everyone that you guys have killed, those spirits of those people are living in the hearts of Kenyans, and those spirits will not be silent until you guys have paid the price of all your actions.
Tumeongea, ameniambia na shida, aliojiwa tu, hajapigwa, hajafanywa anything. Yangu ni kuwa ni ujumbe kwa serikali kuwa haya mambo ya vijana tuyaangalie kimakini kidogo, kama itaweza tuwe na national conversation.
Many youths are really being oppressed, and them speaking out does not mean that they are against the government. Them speaking out is the act of being a citizen, speaking out whatever we are feeling, actually. It's not out of context.
To Boniface Kariuki killing. DPP approves murder charges against Constable Clinzy Baraza. And these are the full details to the story. The Director of Public Prosecution has approved murder charges against the police officer Clinzy Baraza Masinde, who is accused of killing Hawker Boniface Kariuki during the June 17 Nairobi protests over extrajudicial killings. Now, Barasa and his fellow constable Duncan Kiprono were interdicted after being captured on tape manhandling the unarmed masked vendor before one shot him at close range, leaving him for dead along Moi Avenue. On Wednesday, the DPP informed the court that Baraza will be charged on Friday before High Court Judge Justice Kimondo. Meanwhile, Kiprono was set free after the DPP said no murder charges would be preferred against him. Following the incident, which sparked uproar and more protests over police brutality, Kariuki was admitted to the hospital with 4 bullet fragments lodged in his brain. Now, doctors had previously removed 2 other fragments while he was still alive. Here are the full details to the story.
That information, Your Honor, has since been filed in the High Court, and it is now HCCR stroke E010 stroke 2025. We have availed a copy to the court, and the matter will be mentioned tomorrow before the presiding judge of the High Court, the Honorable Justice Kimondo.
Following the information by the DPP, so the second respondent hearing will be set at liberty unless otherwise lawfully held. Furthermore, the first respondent will be remanded awaiting his arraignment before the High Court to face the murder charges that have been preferred by the DPP.
That now to shoot and kill. Member of Parliament Nelson Koech defends the police on killing violent protesters. And Belgood Member of Parliament Nelson Koech, who is also the chair of the National Assembly's Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, has called for the use of extreme force by police officers on violent protesters. In remarks that sparked public uproar, MP Koech reiterated that police officers are allowed to shoot to kill if they evaluate the risk at hand and find their lives would be in danger. Speaking at Cherbei, Kericho County on Wednesday, Koech defended President Ruto's order on police officers to shoot at the legs of demonstrators, adding that it should in fact be shoot to kill rather than shoot to injure. Here are the videos from that rally called by Koech.
We will arrest everyone. Na mimi nataka niseme na nishukuru Rais William Samoei Ruto. Wakati jana umesema shoot but do not kill. I want to repeat it here. In fact, shoot and kill. You cannot have someone who is going to terrorize you and your family, and you are telling me you cannot shoot and kill. You cannot have someone who is coming after your businesses armed and with weapons, and you want to tell me that you cannot use shoot and kill. The Constitution, the Police Act, has given the police the powers to use their arms where they have evaluated the risk of their lives is in danger. Anyone who wants to go to a protected area like State House is not an ordinary person. That is a criminal. That is an armed person that must be dealt with equal force. And the only force that applies to such people is to shoot and kill. If you think that the government is sending goons and assassins to attack people's property and investments, why do you have a problem when the government then goes after the people they have sent, as you claim? Watch out, we will arrest everyone, and I can tell you they are terrorists, and they are going to be charged as either facilitating terrorism or they are terrorists themselves. Yule mama ambaye alichomewa biashara yake ya county supermarket alifanya makosa gani? Opuzi yenu mnatuambia sijui one time ya nani? Nani alikuambia sisi ndio tutakaa one time? Kibaki hakukaa one time, Uhuru hakukaa one time. Sisi umeona wakati imetufikia ndio sisi ni washezi tukae one time. Tunapiga mbili. Fululizo. Hati wanatupangia na sisi tumekaa hivi. Kama ni kupanga, wasifikirie hatuwezi kupanga. Ni vile tunapenda amani na wachunge hii amani sana.
Now here is the head of state, President William Ruto, restating and reiterating that he shall not be swayed by those who, he says, want to remove him from power unconstitutionally.
How is it that a demonstration or protest ends up in death, in rape, in destruction of property, in destruction of business? And is that really what we want to do as a nation? I dare say no. And for now, I am the custodian of that constitution, and I will make sure that I will defend the constitution of the Republic of Kenya. Tuko pamoja, my friends? Yes. Until somebody else takes over, I am here, and I will make sure that hii mchezo tunawachana naye. Kuna watu walikuwa na matatizo sana, hata saa hizi bado hawajaamini mimi ni rais, bado wanahangaika. Mimi ndio niko hapa kwa sasa. Wajipange. Mimi ndio niko hapa. Many people were asking me, what the hell about houses? What is this about houses? Who doesn't have a house? We had all manner of debates around housing. Let me tell you, it wasn't so much about the jobs. It wasn't so much about the houses. It was so much about the jobs. Because of the housing program, for which I have paid a very high political price, there are 320,000 people, young people, working.
This idea of coming to Maandamano and saying we want to invade police station, we want parliament, we want to ban judiciary, and therefore we want to invade State House. That is not protest. That is not issues of grievances of governance. That is actually madness that we must not accept in our country.
And away from that story, we come to the end of the stories that are making headlines in the country. And welcome back from that break. Glad you're still watching Science Breakfast with me, Alan Habit, and the sign language interpreter is Tobias Omonde. Now, we switch our attention to all the stories that are making headlines in the dailies, and we want to start it off with the Daily Nation. And the Daily Nation says IEBC's 2027 test starts. Now, number one, a full-in tray is what the Daily Nation are saying. Now, one, conduct 22 pending by-elections. Now, there have been vacancies in some wards and constituencies after deaths of some MCAs and MPs, a nullification of election results, and appointments to the cabinet. There is one vacancy in the Senate, 6 for MPs and 15 for MCAs. 2, register new voters. A mass registration of voters as well as a cleanup of the voter registration must be conducted ahead of the polls. 3, boundary delimitation. Article 89, Cap 2 of the Constitution states that IEBC shall review the names and boundaries of constituencies at intervals of not less than 8 years and not more than 12 years. And the last review was done in 2012. The timelines for delimitation of boundaries lapsed in March 2024. Conduct continuous voter education. The Commission is expected to enhance public awareness of electoral processes ahead of the general election. And 5, procure election materials. New voter registration software and systems are needed ahead of the elections, as the IEBC says the ones used in previous elections have reached the end of their expected industry support life cycle. But also to uphold the rule of law and legitimacy of IEBC to the people of Kenya. And illegality cannot be the foundation of legitimacy. High Court judges mentioned themselves as they were clearing the lot to take up IEBC roles. Other stories: silent wars rock the opposition over its flag bearer. What are these silent wars? Grab yourself a copy of the Standard to get of the Daily Nation to get to read about that story. And in transition, Chief Kadhi leaves behind a rich legacy of humility and selflessness. That is the death of Chief Kadhi Sheikh Abdul Halim Hussein Athman yesterday, after a long battle with illness, marked the end of a quiet yet profound chapter in his religious and judicial life. That is a story that you'll find on page 2 of the Daily Nation. In athletics, that is in sports, Wanyonyi eyeing something special in star-studded dress, and the world will be treated to a thrilling spectacle in athletics tonight when Olympics 800 meters champion Emmanuel Wanyonyi launches what promises to be his own push for a world record. That story you'll find on page 31 of the Daily Nation this morning. What is in the Standard? Here is what is in the Standard this morning in the dock alone. That is the headlining story in the Standard. Now, choices and consequences. President William Ruto ordered police to shoot and maim rioters. Earlier, Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen had boasted that he would stand by any officer accused of manhandling protesters, even if the charge was murder. He declared he was a lawyer and would defend them to the end. But when Clinzy Masinde sat in the dock accused of shooting an armed hawker, there was no president or minister. He conveyed his tear-streaked face, overwhelmed by the gravity of the charges. The world he once knew was gone, and in that crushing moment, he was utterly alone. That is a story that you'll find on page 4 and 5 of the Standard this morning. And of course, there is the picture of Masinde alone in the docks, and those pictures of the moment they shot the young man Mwangi during the protests early last month. And the court nullifies IEBC gazettement, and the High Court has overturned President Ruto's gazettement of the IEBC chair and 6 commissioners for defying an interim court order, with the judges stating that their directions must not be treated as mere suggestions. That is a story that you'll find on page 7 of the Standard this morning. But also, it is important to note that the IEBC commissioners will be sworn in, even though the Gazette notice was declared unconstitutional. Another Gazette notice will have to be published for the swearing in of the new IEBC commissioners. Those are your dailies this morning. And welcome back from that break. Glad you're still watching Science Breakfast with me, Alan Habert, and the sign language interpreter this morning is Tobias Omondi. Now, we start off with a small highlight in the footballing world, and on the 13th of July 2025, Chelsea is going to be taking on Paris Saint-Germain in what is being called the FIFA World Cup final stage. That match is going to be played on Sunday, and we'll be here on Monday to keep you up to speed with how that particular match went on. But also to mention the club, the women's Euros are ongoing, and that is something that you should also check out over the weekend in case you are a fan of football, particularly women football. And away from that, now to your morning weather, and we started off in Nairobi, where it is going to be cloudy with highs of 21 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. UV index is at lows of 1, and sunset is coming at 18:39 p.m. And in Mombasa, it is going to be partly cloudy with highs of 28 degrees and lows of 23 degrees. UV index is at lows of 1, sunset is coming at 18:23 p.m. In Kisumu, it is going to be cloudy with highs of 26 degrees, lows of 17 14 degrees. UV index, lows of 1, sunset 18:49 p.m. In Muranga, it is going to be cloudy as well. Highs of 23 degrees, lows of 16 degrees. UV index, lows of 1, sunset is coming at 18:39 p.m. And away from that, then to the morning quarter, example is the best precept. Example is the best precept. Just as we have seen with different leaders in our country. First, it was the Cabinet Secretary of Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, and his utterances. Next, it was the President and his stances and utterances. Now, it is members of Parliament with their utterances and their feelings and expressing what they think should be done to young Kenyans or any other Kenyan who is expressing themselves in any manner or form whatsoever. And the message is very simple: shoot to kill. Hence our morning quote this morning: example is the best precept. So how long is it going to take before the entire leadership of our country takes from the leaders that lead us? That is a place that we do not want to go in, or that is a place that we do not want to go to as a country. Good morning and have an amazing weekend.